Manchester City are a weird club. They are a club which people pretend they don't care about, yet literally watch out for the results every single week, and if they don't win, it's a massive problem. But apparently still at the same time don't care about them. And right now, there is absolute reason to care about Manchester City. For the first time in, I think, Pep Guardiola's entire history, he has lost 4 games in a row as manager, which is genuinely almost unforeseeable to imagine him losing 4 games in a row, but it has happened. And this video is not only kind of going into that a little bit, but also about something very important: the charges. Now, this is something that people kind of forget. It's in the background a bit, but it is still ongoing. Actually, it's already in the process. The official case of the 115 charges started back in September 2 months ago, and in terms of an actual result, we probably won't hear back about this until around early 2025. Now, there's a thing that's going on right now which may be a massive part on what's going to happen, and that is Pep Guardiola himself. Now, the reason why I'm doing this now is because Pep Guardiola has officially signed a contract extension with the club, meaning that he will stay there for another year, and it means that if something happens, he'll be potentially managing Man City below the Premier League. But it makes you think, as this is already ongoing, this case for the last 2 months, it makes you think that they may not get relegated, and the verdict may be actually not as bad as what people may believe. And I think that's something worth talking about, because if Manchester City comes out from this case with 115 charges on their head and they come out in relatively decent fashion, what can that actually mean for the rest of football? So comment down below kind of where you stand with Man City and what verdict do you think they're going to get by next year. Like, subscribe, and Merzola Designs for the best football prints, all made by myself. Use code Xmas for 15% off all items. Of course, there are a ton of City prints, so go and check it out. Just to clarify, because it is kind of confusing what the actual charges are, in simple terms, Man City have been accused of incorrectly putting in their finances, basically. That over 9 years, between 2009 and 2016, they basically have been not putting in the correct details into their finances. The entire layout of this is here, with 54 charges for failure to provide accurate and up-to-date financial information, failure to provide accurate financial reports for player and manager compensation, failure to comply with UEFA's regulations, and also failure to cooperate with Premier League's investigations from 2018 to today, and also 7 breaches of the profitability and sustainability regulations as well. It's a lot. And again, my simple way, in a most simple term, right, is that if you've been accused of something 115 times, the odds of you being innocent in every 115 cases is, for me, I mean, it's nigh on impossible to believe. Even if they are found innocent for 90%, that would still mean that 15 or so charges will still be found with them guilty, which is still a lot. Now, the funny thing about City is that they always have this kind of run in the year where they seem to always mess around with tactics, don't really play that well, lose some games, and everyone goes crazy. Right, this happened last year and the year before. It is almost like they have this weird, sick game where they actually go out of their way to make it even harder for themselves to win the league, and yet still do it anyway. It's almost like they're playing around with the actual other clubs they're playing with. If it's Liverpool, Arsenal, it's actually quite sick in the head. But losing 4 games in a row is a little bit too much to really handle here, and it could maybe be 5. It could maybe be 4 in the league where they haven't even won a game. This is possible. Of course, they got Spurs away, which they lost in the Cup, so they're out of the Cup, which is probably they don't care too much about the EFL Cup, but to be fair, they're used to winning anything anyway, so I guess that is a bit of a blow. They lost away to Bournemouth. That is a big loss, okay? And then Sporting Lisbon, a 4-1 loss. Not as a loss, but a demolishing really as well, and then a capitulation as well later on in the game against Brighton. Now they got Spurs at home, which they always seem to do poor against. Feyenoord at home in the Champions League, which they should win, and then Liverpool away at Anfield. I mean, so it seems very smart timing to me where they've approved this contract extension with Pep Guardiola to basically solidify a bit of stability for the club right now, and it just makes me think that City will be fine in terms of this verdict. they're smart. And this case is already ongoing for the last 2 months in a legal fashion in the courts. And they would kind of know what's going on here. And if they think that it was going in the other way, what do you think Pep would be happy of staying with City if they're going to have transfer bans or points reductions or, God forbid, a relegation? Do you think he would stay? I don't think so. So that makes me think that they'll probably be okay. But let's talk about City. Why are they struggling so much? Well, you could be very simple and say one word. Rodri. And I think that plays a factor. Rodri has just won the Ballon d'Or, so it's fair to say that when you do lose the current Ballon d'Or winner, that will play a factor to your team. However, because we are so used to City just being a machine that wins no matter who they have in their team, in their system, then they will get the results. But it is not always as simple as that. Going from a Rodri to a Kovacic is a difference, or a Kovacic to a Nunez is also a difference. But there's also another big glaring part of this. Injuries. Now, when you talk about injuries when it comes to City, people typically don't want to hear it. Not only because of the charges, but also because of how much money they have as well, blah, blah, blah. And people don't really care about City having injuries because look at how good the team is anyway. Look at their bench. Who cares? Which could be fair enough, but if you look at who they lost to, it's quite a lot. They got Rodri out, Kevin De Bruyne out, Jeremy Doku out, Jack Grealish out, and of course at the back, Nathan Ake and Manu Akanji. That means that more younger players are getting some more game time here. Of course, Rico Lewis now playing week in, week out pretty much. And of course, a young lad at the back as well, which has a name which is almost a little bit unfortunate. It's a double barrel name. You know who I'm on about. His name is Jamai Simpson Poussey. But you can imagine how that's said in other terms. But when you look at the bench, they've got, Silva and KDB there. Of course, nowhere near even close to fitness. And then you've got a ton of just academy players. O'Reilly, Wright, Esbran, McAtee. And they are getting a bit low right now. And that does play a massive factor. But because it's City, people just don't want to hear it. And fair enough. It can really be as simple as too many injuries within too many games to allow proper recovery. And that's fair. So who would probably win the league this year? I mean, Liverpool are doing very well, and I kind of have this weird feeling that I think it'd be a massive, massive achievement if Arne Slot wins the league at his first attempt. There's a part of me that even what we saw last year with the kind of fade out at the end, because no one really expected Liverpool to be as good as they were up to that point around March time, and it did fade in the end. But they probably should not have really ever been in that situation in the first place. So for Slot to come in, of course, he's changed things up a bit. And to win it in his first year, I just think it'd be an incredible achievement, especially considering Arteta has been on this for 3-4 years now. So it would feel like a massive, massive wasted opportunity for Mikel Arteta, and could be also maybe a grey mark in him as well if they cannot take advantage, because City will be back. That's not even a doubt in my mind. So who do you think will win the league? Do you think City will still have what it takes? Because even though it feels like a crisis, they're still not far behind at all. They are only 5 points behind Liverpool, and they're still second in the league. So it is a weird one. So comment down below your thoughts about Man City. Do you think they'll get fined? I think for me, the worst thing that's going to happen to City, I think they get fined and maybe a small point reduction, but not much more. So comment down below.